By the late 1960s, Puerto del Lodo had learned to live with its scars. The fire was a memory now, and the refinery's towers rose again on the far side of town, steel against the mangroves, their flares burning day and night. Across the bay in calmer waters, the fishermen still set out before dawn, as they always had. Between them stretched a gulf wider than the tide itself. Senpal's fuel refinery promised stability, and for a while it delivered: steady wages, company trucks, and a sense that the modern world had finally arrived. But the smoke that drifted over the hills carried more than just progress. It settled on the nets, poisoned the catch, and turned the once clear shallows into a film of oil and brine. The fishermen protested, first quietly, in letters and petitions, then in anger when the new cargo port began cutting into the old fishing grounds. They said the dredgers were stirring up the ghosts of the bay, the reefs breaking apart, the fish disappearing, the tide itself turning sour. To the refinery men, it was just expansion, proof that Monte Palma was open to the world. To the fishermen, it felt like the end of it.
Hello, and welcome back to Monte Palma. In this week's episode, we're going to be building a lot with the new DLC, the Ports and Bridges DLC. There's a lot of stuff in this pack, a lot of things to go over here. My main interest for this little port city is it's primarily a fishing community, so that's what I'm going to focus on here. My first thoughts on how the fishing industry actually works. I think my biggest complaint here is these docks. They're huge. They have massive turning radius for the larger ships, but the little tiny boats absolutely disappear in this it's rather inappropriate for if you want like a smaller fishing community type thing. It's going to be a bit of a challenge. The first attempt here to draw it out, I think I understand it a bit better now. We're going to delete it. We're going to try to work with the asset and try to make it look a little better than my first attempt there. First thing to learn here is when you draw this out, you'll get some spawn points for the boats. As long as you don't create a spawn point, you can draw this out in any direction you want, make it as long as it's short. So we just have to work within that limitation. For the fishing area, you see the bounding box there. Fishing areas are gigantic, so we're going to use Anarchy to fill this in, make it a little more appropriate in size. Gonna hook up the boat lanes here. The only boat that really looks good here is going to be the largest fishing trawler. So that's going to be what we're going to use for our fishing fleet, the actual active part that's going out fishing. Also, of course, there's prop versions of all these, and we're going to build in some shorter docks and fill it in with the static boats to indicate that there is a larger fishing fleet here, but I can't draw it out like all functional because it would take up the entire bay and it would not look like the scale of it would be totally out of whack. So we have to play around with this a bit. Now to get the scale a little more correct, I need to draw out a working island out here, a flat space, and we're going to be using Harbor Master J's piers. He released these quite some time ago. They're on Sully's Discord if you want to find them, and they're just made from props from the vanilla game, but the scale of these is much more appropriate for the smaller boats. So we're going to be using these extensively. There's a lot in this DLC, like the assets, and I'm more interested in what the assets look like. Here, I needed to detail out the fishing industry just a little bit. It's obviously way too clean looking for what I'm building. Of course, I have to throw on a whole bunch of decals and surfaces here to see how I can change this to make it look a little more appropriate for what I want to build. So peeling paint, rusty surfaces, we're going to cover up some of the doors with some door decals here to make them look a little more unique. And yeah, I'm going to be using Jay's piers here to build these shorter floating docks where the smaller boats will dock to, and we'll just make them a little lower than the main pier here. The main pier is very large in scale, makes it a little more difficult to work with. And we're just drawing the boats out in lines. The work boats don't float, so we have to place these all by hand. A bit annoying, but it works. For the prop versions of the buildings, this is kind of like where I'm really interested. Like, what can I use these things for? And there's a few things I immediately noticed. There's tons of little assets in this. There's all kinds of things we can use to build things. This is great. We can repurpose these in any number of ways. So I'm happy about that. The buildings for the actual fishing industry, they are generic enough that if you were to put these on dry land, they would easily read as farm buildings. Also for the pier, we have to keep it attached to the fishing dock, but we can draw it out any way we want. We can draw it under buildings and create a wooden dock system. I can think of a lot of ways to use this, so that's a lot of fun. Also, the dock that the fishing industry sits on, it comes as its own prop, so we can use this now to also build out different types of piers and stuff. I've noticed this with the region packs and now with the DLC. With each new set that comes out, there's more and more little bits and pieces of buildings that are available as props. I think this is like an attempt to work around some of the limitations of not having custom assets. Of course, custom assets here are the gold standard. With all these DLCs and region packs, if we get enough prop buildings and pieces and a lot of variety in buildings and stuff that are fairly generic in their look, we can repurpose things in any number of ways to create all sorts of interesting things. Custom assets, I definitely want those. Nothing beats player-made assets just to add uniqueness to cities. On the other side, I'm going to be making, so our main fishing industries are going to be on one side of the bay. On the other side, we're going to have some smaller fishing industry, but smaller fleets, smaller docks, and just a few small collections of boats. Now there's all sorts of props. So some prop buildings included. I'm just going to throw out a few of here. These look very Scandinavian and probably have limited use in my particular build I'm doing now. These could be repurposed for any number of things. Also, all the little bits of hardware and all this sorts of stuff, that's all in there. It might be a bit hard to find. You have to use Find It to find some of this, but it's in there. And I don't think I found all of it, and there's a lot to look through. My biggest problem with building out the fishing port, and there will be a cargo port later in the episode, is when I built out this entire area, I made it a little too, like the water level is a little too high, and these industries are definitely made to be built on slightly higher ground. Because of how I built out everything, I can't change that, place everything with anarchy, but this isn't ideal. And the next time I build out an area like this, I'll have a better understanding of how to set it up beforehand so I don't have some of the issues I have with what I'm building here. Also, the waterfront commercial buildings, there's tons of variety in there. I haven't really had a huge chance to look through them. What I've seen though, the buildings are they could be repurposed for any number of things. So great addition of some variety to the game. As you can see, like for these little tiny fishing boats, you really do need smaller docks. There are the leisure piers, but they do have that kind of guardrail around them, which is a bit... Now we're going to replace this with a proper pier. These really nice looking stone piers. This isn't really a marina for recreational boats or anything like that, so we're not really going to do too much in here, but we are going to have a small pier over by these more better looking homes here over by the waterfront. We are going to put in just a very small pier here for a few leisure boats. These are nice. These actually float. I think the reason why the workboats don't and these do is the workboats are actually functional assets, whereas the leisure boats are just strictly props. On the other side, near the fuel refinery, we're also going to put in a few docks here for fishing boats. This is more backdrop, just to fill in this bay a little bit. Same idea. Also, but this one we're just going to strictly stick to the smaller boats. For the water, obviously I made this map long before the new DLC, so it's the old water system. I might try seeing how the new water looks, but I'm scared it's going to break everything. So I'll give it a try, see how it looks. But for this episode, it's still the old water system. For the detailing, my goal here is to make this look like a fishing port from an impoverished country. So a little more run down, not so nice looking. Buildings are going to look like they've aged quite a lot. Tropical environment, waterfront, a lot of humidity, so climate is going to be very hard on these buildings. So we got to indicate that with the types of decals we use here. So moss, staining, cracking, all that sort of stuff. Now I realize now that the placement of those semi-trucks in there might be a bit tight. It's funny how what you notice after the fact. I don't imagine this to be a particularly nice neighborhood. We're going to be using surfaces and decals to indicate that. Of course, the go-to for this is graffiti. probably be a fair amount of garbage and trash and rubble laying around, junk and all that sort of stuff would probably be fairly a bit all over the place. I choose little scenes to build up with all that stuff. I don't put it everywhere, but find a little interesting little like corner or something and fill it in, make it look a little more interesting. For this building down here, I imagine this is some sort of historic building, maybe a custom house or something like that. Fairly old. Cobbled together a couple of different building extensions here to create a new building. Even though it is historic, it's not in a particularly good part of town. It's not like a tourist attraction or anything like that. It's just a building with a bit of history to it. Adding these rusted roof panels ties them together a little better, and adding a couple of windows to this side. I do have a few empty lots. This one here is just going to detail it out as a bit of an area that's collecting bits of junk and garbage and that sort of stuff. Most of the work here is covering up the vanilla surfaces with surfaces that are more appropriate for this area. I wanted to make this out to look like a rusted out boat. We could change the colors obviously, but we can't change all the colors and decals don't stick to it, which is unfortunate. whole bunch of glitching out seagulls like everywhere, which is really annoying. It's great to see them flying around, but I don't know how many times you're hovering over them and they just look like they're spazzing out. I thought the backside of this wall here needed a bit more detail, so I'm going to add some door decals, more distressed surfaces, and stainage. thought it'd be nice to include a bit of custom signage around the fishing docks. Some of it gets added a little later in the episode, but right now we're just going to give the fishing building a sign here. adjacent to the fishing industry. I put down this rather ritzy looking building, and we're just going to finish off the detailing. This pool kept popping through, but we're just going to put a road right over top of it, and then this will raise it up just ever so slightly, remove it, and it's gone. Why exactly it was a big, huge, expensive mansion here at the very edge of a small, impoverished town is, I guess that's a bit of an open question. I guess what I was wanting is like this Monte Palma is a region of extreme wealth and extreme poverty, and I've been focused on the poverty end for a while. I thought I would add a bit of wealth back in here just to remind everybody. We also have these kiosks from the vanilla piers. These make great gatehouses. We have some gates from the Netherlands cemetery, and then we just pair these up with some gates from the UK set, and voila, we have a custom gate to our big fancy mansion, which turned out really nice. And we'll just give everything a bit of a recolor here so it goes together a little better. Now I stuck the royal villas together here, sunk them into the ground a little bit, and tried to splice them together in a way that looked plausible. Obviously, if you look really closely, there's probably some issues. But I think from a distance, it looks like a big fancy mansion of some sort. And a bit of edging here to hide some of the imperfections. Okay, back over at Port Leonis here for a brief moment. I want to add over here, this is our kind of historic port with a cruise ship industry, historic buildings, all that sort of stuff. It's a big tourist attraction. So I want to add ferry service down here. So we have to just rebuild the docks here in order to be able to do that. Nothing too major here. It's a little finicky getting in here, nothing too drastic. Connect it up to our other boat lanes, and then connect some ferry service. I have a lot of foot traffic, people leaving town by the cruise ship, so this helps alleviate that problem. For this little dock area down here, I was using Harbor Master J's boats along with Crypto Gamers working boats here. We now have proper assets here, much welcomed when we had nothing else. Now we can upgrade them to proper looking boats. And the great thing about the ferry service is there's lots of foot traffic between it and the cruise ship terminal, so there's lots of people now using our waterfront, which is perfect. Okay, on to the cargo harbor. Now this isn't going to be anything large. Eventually this cargo harbor is just going to be a regional port for serving the island. Right now it's serving the whole region. That's not its purpose, but it's the only port we have, so that's how it's going to function for the moment. I had a bit of trouble drawing this in and getting it to work properly. The biggest problem is it's too close to the water line here. It needed to be higher up. At this point, there's not much I can really do to fix that. I'm just going to have to live with the imperfection. And next time we build out a proper cargo facility, keep this in mind. For the assets that come with the cargo harbor, there's lots of nice things in here. Lots of useful buildings that we can reutilize as props for any number of other things. A lot of things suitable for like industrial areas of the city and that sort of stuff. Now, I didn't want to get too super, like this is a really small regional port, so nothing large here. It's really just the basics, and it's not a very good layout. I did some things here, like I put down these tanks, then decided I didn't want them, and then couldn't figure out how to delete them. I did delete them. It only deleted the tanks and left the bases, and I couldn't figure out how to get rid of the bases, so stuck with those. Now this is terribly planned, and it's interesting how I only recognized how badly planned out it was in rewatching it. As I'm building it, I'm totally oblivious to how I'm laying this out. Awful layout. Like this, I thought it'd be useful to put in a little extra road in here to allow a shortcut for traffic, but totally oblivious to the turning radiuses for the semi-trucks. So this is detailing I don't really pay a lot of attention to. And it looks like we'll probably see a truck turning here at any moment. It's just, yeah, it's completely unrealistic. So next time I build out a cargo harbor, I'm going to have to obviously pay more attention to that sort of thing. I wanted to create an auxiliary entrance to the port, but every time I tried to hook it up, I would get this error message saying that cars can bypass the entrance points, but they can't. So I'm not sure. I don't know why. I gave up. I just gave up on the secondary entrance. It's a small port. It doesn't really need it anyway. Obviously, to make this look a little more appropriate for our region, we're going to have to cover the entire thing up in decals. I just put up a poll yesterday to choose a national flag. I think we have a very strong preference as to which one we're going to go with. Came very obvious. If we have a national flag, we obviously would need a capital. So I think this whole area of the map, I think I'm pretty much done with it. Obviously, there's lots of little small detailing projects that could be done and need to be done. That's the thing with city builders. Your cities are never, ever really truly finished. But there is a point where you have to say, okay, I think it's done enough and need to move on. Small detailing projects that will go on in the background, just filling in some of the more rural areas around it. Nothing that really warrants its own proper episode. But I think now that we have a national flag, it's time to return to our capital region. Villa de Palma, where we started, that is adjacent to the capital. That isn't the capital. That's like the old quarter. So we'll get into that in the next episode. And I think the next episode, it's going to be, I think how we're going to be, it's like train infrastructure and shipping infrastructure and all that sort of stuff. First, that's next episode, and we'll get into it then. Some things that we're doing in the background here, the roads, they're way too light. So I covered them all up with Roman's stain surfaces here, like light stain surfaces, which just gives them some contrast so I can actually see them. And I'm also playing around with the surfaces, like the other paved surfaces here, switching them in and out, deciding which ones work. Also decals to add a bit of wear and tear, some stainage, all that sort of stuff. Just to give it a bit of variety and variation so we can actually see the stuff we're working with here, because everything is just so completely washed out. It's an odd color choice. I don't know what the thinking was with that, but I don't think it works very well. Now these shipping containers, this is like a really boring looking asset. I was like, oh, let's add some stainage to it, see if we can liven it up a bit. We're going to do a bit more to these a little later in the episode. And just finding props that seem appropriate for certain areas, like for all this loose material piled up here. Obviously we need some machinery to move it around. And some extra cargo container movers here. And we're going to add a bit of signage here to give it a bit of a unique flavor. So what I did is I created some stencils to give them companies and stuff that these containers belong to. So I think I have 3 or 4 of these now. So now I have all these shipping companies within Monte Palma, which maybe they might pop up in the stories in the future. Who's to say? Some of them are local, some of them are probably international. Just to give a bit of variety, so it's not so boring looking. And that brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you so much for sticking around to the very end. Next week, we're going to be moving back into the capital, so that should be interesting. Anyway, I will see everybody in the next episode. Take care.